As the year 2001 ended, amidst all the news, there was the story of a church in Alamogordo, Christ Community Church, whose pastor, Jack Brock, gathered his flock and led them in an old-fashioned book burning. On Sunday evening, December 30th, he preached a fiery sermon saying that magic and witchcraft were real, that they flow from Satan, and that someone had to have the guts to stand against them, even when they were wrapped in the guise of the innocent-looking Harry Potter. He cited Deuteronomy 18:10-12. Let no one be found among you who sacrifices his son or daughter in the fire, who practices divination or sorcery, interprets omens, engages in witchcraft or casts spells, or who is a medium or spiritist, or who consults the dead. Anyone who does these things is detestable to the Lord, and because of these detestable practices, the Lord your God will drive out those nations before you. Harry Potter, Rowling's fictional character, does way too much of that sort of thing. And so therefore, by extension, those who read these books are sanctioning witchcraft. It's all evil, Reverend Brock said. What she has done is make Harry look good and Voldemort evil, but they both came from the same source. So that evening, children in the church were encouraged to throw their copies of Harry Potter books into a bonfire, and so rid themselves of this evil. The children seemed rightly confused by it all. I doubt they knew what to believe. At the end of it all, one church member, Claire Quilty, applauded this effort to direct the minds of their children toward Christ and away from frivolous fantasies. I wish Pastor Brock wouldn't stop at Harry Potter, she said. There's a lot of other books they could burn. I hope you know how I feel about this. I spent a lot of my life in a bookstore, and the books weren't the only thing burning when I read this story. So I will say it for the record, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone is in fact a good book. It is well written and entertaining, and it showcases the struggle between good and evil, light and darkness, and it makes me want to be one of the good guys. And besides that, it is fun. I believe that there are worse things to feed the minds of our children, including intolerance. I wish I could tell Reverend Brock what a disservice he did to his congregation. In his zeal to lead them in the fight against evil, he led them to become a part of it instead. The problem, when you decide to start ridding the world of evil, is one of discernment. What shall we burn? It's like something that was done with children once. In an experiment, they handed them a box full of black and white marbles and asked them to separate them into two piles. But the pile of marbles included one marble that was gray. Does it go into the white pile or the black pile? Usually they decided that it was dirty and threw it into the black pile in the effort to keep the white pile more pure. Once you start down that road, deciding what is white and what is black, it becomes the problem. What is good and what is bad? What do you do when something is both? Soon your mindset can lead you to the conclusion that if it isn't pure white, then it must be black. The sort of good gets classified now with the really bad, even though it isn't. When you begin to look beyond books into everything else in life, it all gets even more confusing. Yes, there is still evil in our world. We know that. The question is, how do we rid the world of evil? How shall we discern the good from the bad? What shall we keep and what shall we burn? Jesus compared the situation to that of a farmer who had planted a field with good seed. While he slept, an enemy came and planted weeds amongst the wheat. Later, the man's servants came to him in distress. Sir, didn't you sow good seed in your field? Where then did the weeds come from? An enemy did this, he replied. The servants asked him, do you want us to go and pull them up? No, he answered, because while you are pulling the weeds, you may root up the wheat with them. I think there is a lesson there for those of us who want to start pulling up the weeds in our world. The goal of the one who sowed the weeds was to cause ruin and havoc and destroy what was good. But his efforts alone weren't enough to do that. Instead, he needed the cooperation of those who served the master of the field. If only they started pulling up the weeds, would the wheat also be destroyed? Because the roots are intertwined. So to remove one would uproot the other. That is the real situation our world is in right now. There is evil in the midst of all that is good, but it is not easily separated. Usually, trying to do so just aids the cause of evil by creating more havoc and destroying the good along with the bad. Jesus offered his disciples a different focus. In the parable, the master tells the servants not to try and uproot the weeds, because to do so will destroy the crop and serve the cause of evil. Instead, he tells them to let both grow together until the harvest. In this, Jesus was a radically different teacher than many in his time. The Pharisees taught strict adherence to the rules of their religion and ritual purity. The Zealots fought to drive out all those who lived in ways that they believed defiled their land. Their zeal eventually led to a war with Rome that destroyed their whole country. As they went out, Jesus' disciples carried a different sort of message that included loving your enemies and letting your light so shine in the darkness that others may see your good works and give praise to your Father in heaven. They did not embark on a crusade against evil. Instead, in the midst of an evil world, they taught people how to embrace what was good instead. We should be smart enough by now to realize that we can't take the darkness out of our world with a bonfire. The only way we can hope to make the world better is by bringing light into it. We offer to the world what we have found to be good, while we wait for the harvest that is yet to come. I'm not saying that there are no moral stands to be taken. There are. But taking a moral stand is something different from embarking on a crusade to impose only your own values upon the world around you. To offer a choice is really to give others around us a chance to discover who God wants them to be. To demand obedience to our own chosen set of values is to take God out of the picture. Because when there is no choice, God can't speak to the human heart. To choose God, we must also be free to choose what is good rather than what is evil, but it must be our choice. And no matter what choices you make, chances are that in your own life, there's still going to be some of the good stuff and some of the bad stuff. Here, a little humility is a good thing. We are the field. The promise is that someday only the good stuff will remain. Right now, we should add as much of the good stuff to our lives as we can, and share as much of that as we can to others as well, and yet remain aware that we have not yet been made perfect. The Apostle Paul put it this way: "Finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. Whatever you have learned or received or heard from me or seen in me, put into practice, and the God of peace will be with you." We will never be able to uproot all of the evil in the world, but we can choose to focus our lives more and more on what is good. When we do that, our world becomes a little brighter, and our light will begin to make it a better place. Be safe, and God bless you.